call this special meeting / public hearing to order. And the first item on the agenda is call to order and roll call. And so the records will show that 5 of us are here. Jim Bellavance is not here. I've not heard from him, so he can join us after we begin. So this is budget presentation. This is the public hearing where the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education present their respective budgets to the Board of Finance. And as you can see from the PowerPoint that's up here, the town budget is already up on the screen and ready to go. And so our agenda says that the Board of Education was going to present first. If that's fine, we can just go with Board of Selectmen because the PowerPoint's already up there. It doesn't really make much of a difference who goes first. So, Amy, if you want to step up and present your budget, we're happy to. So this is going to be, for the record, this is general budget, local capital improvement projects, and capital improvement plans. That's the way it reads on the agenda.
There we go. Okay, thank you everybody for attending this evening. We've spent quite a few weeks working on this budget. Board of Selectmen has decided just to kind of give you a brief overview so you know where some of the major and minor changes are to the budget, and then of course we'll go in detail over the capital improvement plan. So as you all know, we went through a revaluation this year, so it did cause some drastic changes to the numbers on the grand list. You'll notice real estate, there was a $92 million change, $92+ million change. In motor vehicles, we had an increase of $3.5 million. And personal property, an increase of $1.1 million. So in total, we had a $97 million net increase in the grand list, which equaled $2,694,637 in additional revenue at the current mill rate of 27.75. At this point, as far as we know in our projections, the municipal aid remains level at this time. So we're anticipating the same municipal aid. So general government expenditures, just a quick overview. Operating expenditures saw a 5% change. I'm just going to kind of go over this quickly. We can take questions on it. Also there's packets about this slide in front. Library administration saw a 3% increase. Capital and transfers, like I said, we are going to discuss this in greater detail, but there's a 126% increase for capital and transfers. So that's capital improvement plans. The debt service saw a decrease, and we'll go over that in a second as to what caused that decrease, which is a good thing. So in total, our general budget expenditures that we are proposing is an increase of 8.81%. So here's just a quick overview. We have a couple slides where we're just kind of touching upon some of the more major changes this year. The first is something I can't quite touch upon yet because we're just beginning our union negotiations and we don't have a true idea of where those might take us. We have factored a number into the budget. But again, it's sort of a moving target. We're not quite sure where that's going to be. Data processing saw a decrease this year because we have made several upgrades to our data processing equipment and we're not going to need those kind of make those kind of expenditures this year. So it's a negative or a decrease of 13%. Elections and registrations are also seeing a decrease of 18%, and that mostly has to do with a reduction in the amount of election workers and training that's necessary this year, as well as a reduction in the machine cost. As you know, a lot of times last year we did hand ballots versus counting by the machine, and that did save that department quite a bit. There was a 15% increase for our fire marshal department, and that is due to the fact that we now have a deputy fire marshal that's fully certified to work with Jamie. He has quite a workload ahead of him. He's going to be taking on a lot of the inspections of various apartments in town. Jamie is also working really diligently and doing a lot of inspections that hadn't been done for several years. He's finding a lot of violations and getting things corrected so that we can ensure that our townspeople and our businesses are safe places to be. Under the fire and EMS, we are asking for a 14% increase. It increases the budget $86,430. This is to ensure that our fire departments and our EMS is adequately funded so that they can continue to grow their departments, attain the equipment that they need to operate properly and safely. So it's definitely an increase that we felt strongly was worth investing in. The next line is our animal control department. It's a 44% increase, but we are hoping to reinstate our animal control program so that we no longer have to fall under NECOG's animal control services. We have an animal control building. Currently, it's not being used, so we are researching that, and we are going to attempt this year to get that back reinstated. The next line is our building official. As you know, we have several subdivisions that are in the works. We have one on Madison Ave, we also have one on Donovan Drive. And additionally, there are many people doing renovations to their home. There's a lot of activity going on in our building office, which means we did have to increase the hours of our building official, who works very part-time, so that he could support the workload. The next line was our town garage, which proposed a decrease of 25%. This is mostly due to the fact that he had a lot of building improvements that he made last year, that he doesn't foresee needing to do any other building improvements. So it made sense to reduce that budget line item. The Economic Development Commission is seeing an increase of 19%. This is mostly due to a lot of EDC initiatives. They are currently working on a pop-up shop idea, if you've heard about it. That's going to include 10 different shops that are mobile, that people can rent and sell their goods from. They're also working on 65 Main Street, Garden by the River, and a train wreck park that they're hoping to launch in the near future. So this is a way that we can fully support them in their initiatives. The next line is something that is out of our control, and that's fringe benefits. One of the things which is health insurance, the pension fund. We're showing an 11% increase for this year overall in all of those benefits. The next line is debt retirement. Like I said, our debt service is 11% less this year, mostly because we've been able to pay off a huge portion of the oil spill loan. So we're not going to have that in our back anymore. The next line is the Public Health Department, and that's what we pay to Northeast District Department of Health. It's showing an 11% increase for this year, mostly because our population has increased by 115 residents, and also because there's a 50-cent per capita increase on that line item. And now to one of our biggest expenses. Like I said, this is showing a 126% increase this year, and that is our capital expenditures. The first line you'll see is for property revaluation. We are contracted with NECOG every 5 years. We just went through the revaluation process this year. This amount, the $50,747, is the anticipated cost for the revaluation 5 years from now. The next line is roads resurfacing, and I'd like to go into greater detail on this. The Board of Selectmen at Tuesday night's meeting reduced that by $100,000, and there is reasoning to it. But first off, I did want to share with you what Rich's plans were and kind of give you an insight into what he's done in this past year. And this is Rich's request directly. He says, from June through December 2019, we successfully rebuilt 6.83 miles of roads here in town. The scope of work consisted of making all necessary drainage repairs, pulverizing the existing road surface, and mixing that material into the road base, grading the roads to reshape them to proper drainage, and removing material as necessary, and finally resurfacing the road with a 2-inch base layer and then a 1.5-inch finished layer of asphalt. The end result of this process provides us with a brand new road surface with a life expectancy of 15 plus years with normal maintenance. Total cost for the work completed on the 6.83 miles was $1,664,006. As you can see, we're not going to have that kind of money to do this road work this year. So what Rich is proposing is this year we are planning to repair and replace Colonial Ave, Liberty Lane, 1,000 feet of Porter Plain Road, the rear lot of the Town Hall, and the basketball court on Central Street. We have pavement repairs to do on Aquatic Town Farm Road, Reardon Road, Buckley Hill Road, and various locations around town. My goal is to spend this year making needed repairs and catching up on smaller road maintenance items that have been ignored this past construction season. Also pushed off to last year's busy, I would like to spend a minimal amount of money this year in order to carry over and have a larger amount to work with next year. This will allow us to negotiate better pricing due to the higher volume of materials being purchased. I thought it was important for you to hear his narrative. There have been several years when the road budget hadn't really been tapped into, so last year we had a larger amount of money to work with. And I'd like to say that we could do that again this year, but unfortunately, as you can see, with $400,000, it's not going to get us very much. I also wanted to point out that Rich had requested $500,000. And it was a tough decision to make, but the Board of Selectmen the other night decided to cut it by $100,000, but we didn't cut it completely. We added 2 new items that Rich had not requested, and I wanted the Board of Finance particularly to note this, because we're trying to plan ahead for something that we're going to need to do in the future. So we added the last 2 lines that you see on this slide is a new salt shed, which we discussed last year. We do not know how much that salt shed is going to cost, but we propose putting $50,000 towards it this year to begin site work and pay for some of the engineering costs on building that salt shed. It's something that's necessary so that we don't contaminate water sources, and it's something that DEP will be coming down on us to get it done in the near future. Additionally, the second line item that I particularly wanted the Board of Finance to be aware of is that the state is requiring towns to do their own bridge inspections and repairs. And as you know, and you've heard, our bridges need repair. So we propose taking another $50,000, so rather than cutting Rich's budget completely, we wanted to put a line item in so that we would start preparing and thinking for the future. So those are 2 things that I really thought it was important to explain to our residents and the Board of Finance. So that is what we're requesting right now for road resurfacing is $400,000. The library came to, or actually I should say the community center, came to us, and as usual, they're always planning for the future. so they're looking ahead to repairs that that building is going to need since it is over 25 years old. And that would be $50,000 for repairs and $25,000 towards the roof project, which they've been anticipating. It really will need to be done within the next couple of years. Last year, the Little League had given us a capital request, and this was the remaining amount that they needed to fulfill that request, so we added it in. On the Turtle Lot Trust Fund line, I just want to express that this is sort of an in and out item. It does come directly from the Turtle Lot Trust, filters through the town, and gets paid out through the town. So even though it's there, it's sort of an in and out item. So what the $250,000 encompasses is Phase 2 of the window replacement project in the 1909 building. So that's what the Turtle Lot Trust is hoping to do this year. The next item is, Rich had also requested a roll-off truck. The one that they currently have at the transfer station is 2003. It has well over 250,000 miles, and it heads out about 3 times a day, 3 to 4 times a day, 4 times a week, and it heads up into Auburn to bring transfer station items for recycling, etc. So it's definitely a truck that's in need of repair. It's estimated to cost $200,000, maybe a little bit less than that. So we decided as a Board of Selectmen to propose a financing plan for it rather than the full $200,000. Currently, the interest rate, I think this is something you'll probably be interested in, the interest rate that we're being quoted, I believe, is under 5%. It's about 4.3. And so in total, our capital expenditures that we're proposing come to $922,325. Oh, I just tried to play. Where'd it go? Did I do it again? What am I doing, Bob?
Hey, just keep your hand up the button and I'll put it.
Okay. I'm technologically challenged.
There you go. No button.
Okay. So that's my presentation. Is there any questions at all? Okay, hearing none. I will pass this over to the Board of Education.
No, it's right up at the podium.
Well, it is, I don't know how to use it. Technologically challenged as well? Yeah. Okay. Well, when it comes to players. You know I have a husband. He won't let me know that it's
citizens of Thompson, and my fellow Board of Education members. My name is Kathleen Herbert, and I'm the Chair of the Board of Education. I'm here tonight with the Superintendent of Schools, Mrs. Smith, to present the fiscal year 2020 and 2021 Board of Education budget. First, I would like to explain to you the development process of the Board of Education budget. It starts in mid-November when each department formulates their budgets within the guidelines given to them by the superintendent. Their budgets are then compiled and reviewed by the superintendent, the administrators, and the business manager before it reaches the Board of Education in January. The Board of Ed then analyzes and reviews it at several public meetings, reaching out for citizens' comments before it is presented to the Board of Finance, which is where we are tonight. Back. Okay. 3 years ago, while searching for a new superintendent, the Board of Ed decided that we needed to update our vision and mission statements. We needed to define who we were, where we were headed in the future, what are our goals, and what was our purpose. We then hired the person who best fit this vision and who we felt could accomplish our mission. This FY 2020-2021 budget incorporates programs and curricula put in place by that superintendent to meet our vision and our mission statement. Our vision statement is that the Thompson Public Schools will be the highest performing public school system in northeastern Connecticut. And our mission statement is that the Thompson Board of Education is committed to ensuring that every student is prepared for success in life in the 21st century. And below it, you can read all this information. It's online at the Thompson Public School website. And these are the goals and the steps that we're going to take to reach this mission and to achieve our vision. To recap it in one small sentence, we are small schools, but with big opportunities. Not very sensitive. Oops. Oh. The citizens of the town of Thompson have many advantages and receive many advantages from the school district of Thompson. The citizens, you citizens, can be assured that they are receiving an excellent return on their investment in Thompson Public Schools because of strict oversight of taxpayers' dollars are being used wisely, effectively, and efficiently. Personnel are continuing to look for cost savings, grants, and new and less expensive ways of achieving results. The town is and should be deservedly proud of their school system. We continue to receive high marks in accreditation renewals. The district continues to gain external recognition for its accomplishments. The June 2019 senior class of only 52 students, this is one of our smallest classes that has ever graduated from, in current history, that's ever graduated from the high school, received almost $1.4 million in scholarships. We offer 36 college credit courses, and this can save a parent or parents up to a semester in college tuition. We have students who have earned statewide music awards and leadership awards. Our students have our schools have wonderful and engaged students, dedicated teachers and staff. One of them is here, has been here for 41 years. And a high degree of alumni, parent, and community support. Our mission to prepare students for life in the 21st century. Our mission to prepare students for life in the 21st century is carried out in our program initiated in 2018-19, Portrait of a Graduate. What does a Thompson graduate look like? Who is a Thompson graduate? Over 500 people participated in surveys, focus groups, and workshops to help develop this portrait of a Thompson graduate. It was a total community effort. The conclusion was that a Thompson graduate is independent, knowledgeable, and community connected. This initiative defining and promoting a portrait of a Thompson graduate, it continues on. In fact, this logo is the first time I'm seeing it. It just got approved yesterday, correct? Yes, and it's wonderful, terrific. Oops, right. Our district also faces disadvantages, as do many of our surrounding school districts. Our budget request does not include any funding for unanticipated expenditures. There are no contingency funds. It is important to continue to develop programs for students that align with the district's mission statement or strategic plan and the portrait of a graduate. The district has some ongoing unaddressed short and long-term facility and maintenance needs that require action. These will be addressed in detail later in the presentation by Superintendent Smith. It is important to emphasize that this proposed 2020-21 spending plan maintains the current staff levels and programs that are already in place. There are no new staff or programs added in this spending plan. It is the status quo. It maintains the status quo. Therefore, the Board of Education respectfully requests funding for the year ended June of 2021, $19,818,582, or an increase of 6.02%. Come on. When taken in perspective by looking at the 5-year trend, you will see that this amounts to only a 1.81% increase for the school. It does not even keep up to the rate of inflation for that time period, which averages around 2.5%. So at this time, I would like to introduce Superintendent Smith to continue the presentation.
I didn't have much luck with that either.
Thank you, Chairman Herbert. Good evening, Board of Finance members. So let's see if I can do a better job. I doubt it. Kathleen talked about the rate of inflation, and we put a graph together, and you can see that the rate of inflation over time has certainly exceeded the increases that we've seen in the school department budget. And here are our different departments that are broken down, and you can see the different departments and each of the percentage that the budget covers. We have a lot of visuals in this presentation. So when we built this budget, we went into the budget knowing that there were a lot of constraints. And the constraints are that we have contractual obligations that are fixed. We have an overall increase in salaries at 3.8%. We are currently, this year, bargaining 4 different contracts. Our administrative contract, we're still working, that one has been settled. Our custodians, our secretaries, and our paras, nurses, and cafeteria workers, those are all currently ongoing. This year we're seeing a fixed cost in our healthcare and a 17.11% increase. Our special ed tuition has increased 24%, primarily because we have more out-of-district students placed this year.
And transportation, which is a fixed cost as well. You know that we have a privatized bus company. Our transportation is at 2.47%, and I will note that that is under what we contracted for. We're actually below the contracted rate, and we'll talk a little bit about that. The reduction there is because we've been really aggressive of putting special education programming in place. We have an increase in fuel at 6.5% and workman's comp and liability at 7%. So when I worked with the principals and the department heads and our directors to develop this budget, we went into it with all these constraints. Everyone put together a very practical budget, and we're going to go through each area now. One of the things that we wanted to maintain was the current programs that we have in place, and then also all of our current staffing. So looking at some of these programs that are there, Farm to School right now is a grant-funded program for aquaponics. We have our Bradley partnership, which we don't pay for, but actually is a cost savings for us. Our unified sports programs, Best Buddies, we're working on curriculum revision. We have a wonderful program, Tools of the Mind, for kindergarten and preschool. We're trying to expand our career and tech ed pathways and increase our reading interventions. And then, of course, expand College Board advanced placement classes for students at Turtle Rock Memorial High School. So, this is a very important slide. Out of our entire budget, $11,953,578, or 60% of the budget, comes from the taxpayers, the local taxpayers here in Thompson. But the other $7,534,704, or 38% of the budget, comes from state aid. And then that 2%, that $330,000, comes from the excess costs that we get from special education reimbursement. So you can see where that whole budget doesn't necessarily come from the local taxpayers. There certainly is a tax impact on the citizens overall, but we do get $7.5 million from the state. And then when we look at our fixed versus non-fixed costs, you can see that most of our budget, 95%, are fixed costs. The other 5% includes things like supplies and equipment across all departments. We get in federal and state grants, and the totals are there. The most important thing on the federal grant side is most of that money is covering or offsetting salaries. So for IDEA, it's for special education salaries. Title I, it's our reading intervention salaries. Title II is for professional development. Title III is for English language learners. We only receive about $700 of that money. The other $10,000 is written for the town of Thompson and goes to Marianapolis. And then Title IV is for social emotional learning. On the state grants, this is a one-time allocation for this year, is the Alliance funding, which is very restricted. It can't be used to offset the budget. It's used for improvement of academics overall, and we have 5 different areas that we are restricted to spend those funds on. We had to submit a plan to the state. That has been reviewed and approved. I just found that out last week. And we're working on implementing that plan now. We have our special education excess costs that you saw in that other pie chart of $330,000. We have a one-time stabilization, municipal stabilization grant that we received this year. And with that $200,000, we were able to purchase a special educator at the high school and a reading intervention teacher at the middle school. And we want to maintain those same positions with that grant for next year. Our school readiness is part of, offsets the cost of our preschool program. We also get a grant for $49,000 for adult ed. However, the district, the Board of Ed, has to match that amount, and that's paid out to EastCon for adult ed programming. And then finally, Perkins for our construction program. So we put the budget together by departments, And you can see that each school has a difference over the previous year, and that's primarily in salaries and benefits and healthcare. This particular, each budget, each school budget, does not include district-wide personnel like custodial staff, nursing, or any of those things. So you'll see a discrepancy in some of the slides in the appendix, but I wanted to bring your attention to the fact that it doesn't include that district-wide personnel. And then our middle school at 5.06%, difference over the previous year, and Mary Fisher. Moving on to district-wide expenses. So, this is an important slide, and I'm not sure all citizens are aware, but we have students that go out to the VOAG and other magnet schools, and you can see the number of students that we project for 2021 and the cost. We do not pay tuition for students that attend LS TAC, however, we do pay for transportation. So, all total, between the transportation and the tuition that we pay for students that are not attending Thompson Public Schools, it is a total of $422,876 that comes out of the Board of Ed budget. And when you look at, just to bring your attention to Killingley VOAG, and you say, oh, it's $6,800 to send a student to Killingley VOAG, that's the amount of money that the Board of Ed is obligated to pay Killingley. However, the state also gives Killingley $7,000 per pupil, which equates to $13,823 per pupil going there. And then we also provide support to St. Joseph's School. We provide Title I reading services, and that's based on a formula that is provided by the state. This year, we weren't obligated to provide Title I reading services to St. Joseph's, but we have been doing it for so many years that we continued that service because we felt it was our obligation to make sure those students also got some reading support. So we continued that this year. Title II, St. Joe's receives about $2,000 of our allocation. They also receive speech and language services from our IDEA grant. We provide bus transportation for those students. And we also do special education testing. Anytime they have a concern about a student, that testing is done in Thompson Public Schools. And then, of course, we provide nursing support. So, just to break it down by departments, we're going to start with special education. And the big takeaway here is that we have to provide free and appropriate public education for all students. And all students means that not every student is going to have the same programming. And students with disabilities or who have a 504 may need additional supports. And we try very hard to educate our students in the least restrictive environment. The least restrictive environment, of course, is the general ed classroom. And if we can provide support within the classroom, all the better. But sometimes students with disabilities need more comprehensive support. And so then that becomes either more restrictive setting in a small classroom or a paraprofessional, more technology, and sometimes it causes us to reach beyond our school system and place students in alternate learning environments. So, out-of-district placements, coming into the 1920 school year, we had budgeted for a certain amount of students, I believe it was 18, and then over the summer months, we started to take students in that had need, and we didn't anticipate them moving into the district. Our new pupil service director, who had been hired last February, immediately started to work on developing a partnership with Bradley School. And so in doing so, we were able to close a classroom that we currently had, and we were able to save those dollars and give more intensive supports to students by placing them in an on-site Bradley program. Currently in our Bradley program, we have 14 students, and you can see where they're coming from. And the Bradley program is an on-site program that is completely run by Bradley Hospital. It's their staff, they're housed here. We get a discount per student for tuition, and I'll show you an example in a minute, for having the program housed here. In addition, depending on when we hit a certain pupil threshold, we also get an additional discount by bringing students in from other districts. So we can give you an example of an out-of-district placement. So we have a student that attends school A, and the tuition is $75,000. Transportation for that particular student is $57,000. So you add those two, that total cost for that one student is $132,000. Now, we all know about the excess cost because we went over that last year. However, you have to spend, the Board of Ed has to spend the first $82,000 before you can get any reimbursement. So you take that $132,000 for transportation and tuition, you minus out that excess cost threshold, and now the differential is $50,000. But the state doesn't give you the $50,000 reimbursement, they only give you 75% of that. And so the balance then is $37,500. That's our reimbursement. The Board of Ed is responsible for $94,500 for that student, even with the reimbursement. So I'm going to give you an example now, what happens when we have a student in the Bradley program. So the tuition on site for a student attending the Bradley program is $38,500. All of our students right now come in on gen ed transportation, so there is no transportation costs. So the total is still $38,500. But the problem is, we're not going to see any reimbursement because we don't hit that $82,000 threshold. So there is no differential, there is no 75% reimbursement. However, our net cost for that student is still $38,500. And you go back to the previous slide where the Board of Ed was paying $94,500, and the differential is that there's a reduction in tuition of $56,000. So our pupil service director has been very aggressive in trying to bring more of our students into the Bradley program. Many of them have been sprinkled across the state, some of them riding in individual vans, and we have to develop trust back with those families to bring those students back on site so they can get into the Bradley program. And the wonderful thing about that is those students get to integrate back into the general ed setting and be in classrooms with their peers. And so we're bringing those students home, and I'm very proud of the work that we've been doing in that area. So just to take a little look at the reimbursement over time. This current school year is the first year that the Board of Ed has received these excess cost reimbursement. So this year, we are receiving $351,160. However, we figured that in when we developed the budget last year. And so, how many students do we have in special education? At Mary Fisher, you can see we have 110. At the middle school, 51. At the high school, 30. And currently, we have placed out of district 26 students. So the total number is 217 students need additional support beyond the general curriculum. And we have a lot of detail in the appendix for you. So then you take the student demographics and how that's broken down, and you can see that 71% of our students are in a general education setting, and then the remaining 29% are being serviced in some type of special education program. And then how the department is broken down by schools. You can see that 28.6% at Mary Fisher, 17.3% of the special education budget goes to Thompson Middle School, 33% is for out-of-district placement, and then 12.7% at Turtle Rock Memorial High School, and then of course a minor percent for administration and supplies. So, there are a lot of special education initiatives as well, and some of them overlap with the slide that I showed you before. But the biggest thing is that we are really trying hard to develop curriculum to meet the needs of the students that are in our programs across the board, preschool to grade 12. So the next section is plant and operations. And you can see that we have a percent change of 14.22% increase. And I want to bring your attention to salaries. There is a 5.65% increase in salaries, and that's primarily because of custodian overtime due to additional summer work that we had this past summer, and we still need to continue next summer, and the excess cleaning and disinfecting. Last year, we ran over in overtime because of the flu season. This year, we're seeing it, and it's even increasing more so with the coronavirus concerns that we have. So we have a lot of custodians working overtime, making sure the buildings are healthy. And then the second thing is the $269,000 in capital improvement. And it's something that the Board of Finance might want to think about and might want to discuss, is removing that particular line out of the Board of Ed budget and having it put to one side as a capital improvement under the town. If that amount remains in our budget, then it becomes part of our MDR. And many of these things, as you will see, are just one-shot capital improvements. So the first thing is the remodeling of the high school locker rooms for a cost of $38,582. The last renovation of those locker rooms was in 1989. And if you could take a good look at some of these shots, it is in really need of repair and upgrade, and the lockers are rusty, things are chipped, and really need repairing. And that's both in the girls' and the boys' locker rooms. Our courtyard, we had started revising our courtyard to use it as an outdoor learning space, and we had some initial grant money, but to really get it to where we need to complete that project, and that cost us $15,000. We have the 7th and 8th grade wing where Lucy Trudeau and Neil Berger's classrooms are, that are constantly leaking. And Mr. Birch has tried and has repaired just about everything. And it's come down to, they believe that the water is actually seeping through the masonry. And he has had a quote, had people out taking a look at that, but that really does need to be repaired. It's almost like a waterfall. Every time it rains a certain way and the winds come in a certain way. And we just focus on a few areas where you can see where it's seeping in, but really it's that whole side of the building that needs to be corrected. And then replacing the floors in the high school corridors. We're hoping to do this in some phases at a cost of $85,533, but you can see those floors do need to be replaced. We are coming up for an ES visit in 2 years, and we do need to start making these capital improvements. And then the high school, we are remodeling the shop. We are trying to improve our pathways, and our manufacturing pathway is getting a lot of good state recognition. And so the ventilation system does need to be upgraded, and this is only a portion of the total cost of the ventilation system. The overall cost, I believe, is $169,000, but we're going to try to do that in phases as well. And then there's other items that we need to address. And so we asked Mr. Birch to put them in priority order. The things that are highlighted, however, are things that we have overlooked in previous budgets because we had to make reductions. Whenever there's a reduction in the budget, we often go to the plant operation budget and make those reductions there. And so the biggest thing on that list is the exterior speakers. When we do an all-call for a lockdown, there are no exterior speakers, and if students are outside, they're not being notified that we are under lockdown. We do have a strobe light out there, but that is not enough to alert students. And then you go down to just the different things that we would like to focus on. And I can tell you that that custodial new equipment of $14,000, that's a floor machine, it's been cut every year since I've been here. I'm sure it's on its last leg. Where's Mr. Birch? Yeah. And so our curriculum budget overall is flat. There's a lot of good professional development happening, and of course the salary for the half-time salary for the curriculum director. However, that came into almost a flat budget. And then we look at high school and middle school sports. That's a 2.74% increase. And we just highlighted what is other cost. It is uniforms, equipment, dues and fees. Our co-op for the Putnam football team has increased this year, next year for $5,000. And an athletic trainer, our scoreboard repairs, and a portion of the field maintenance. Most of that is in Mr. Birch's budget. And then technology, an 8.87% increase overall. However, under salaries, we finally did add a part-time employee. Because we have so many devices, the technology team did need additional help maintaining the Chromebooks that we have. As you know, we have a one-on-one initiative, grades 5 through 7, and that was all funded with Alliance money a couple of years ago. However, they all need to be maintained. So, and we do plan on adding 150 new Chromebooks to keep that cycle going, and to replace some projectors, servers, and wireless access points. And so this is the time for any budget questions. However, I do want to quickly flip through our appendix, which is pretty extensive. But in the back, we have our object codes. In case we are looking at the main portion of the budget and you want to know what that code means, you can go to the appendix. Some Thompson town facts that are there. The biggest thing, looking at free and reduced lunch in Thompson, 45.8% of our students are living in poverty. And then private school versus public school enrollment. Whoops. And then Thompson Public School population projection for 2021. We're looking at a total of 990 students next year, and that's taking into account those students who have made a decision to go to a different high school. And then just recapping contractual cost increases. Whoops. And then alternate funding, and this is a slide I'd like to stop on. And right now we have applied for $140,000 of alternative funding, and that's been funded, and we still are waiting on another $50,000. But that is not all of the grants that the district has received. Our teachers, our principals are constantly writing grants. Many of them have gotten a lot of field trip grants. I know Ms. Beltram gets a grant from Mystic Aquarium and Mystic Seaport every year. And so there are many other smaller grants that our teachers and our principals are writing almost daily to bring in additional programming and enhance our curriculum. And then our current staff, and you can compare our current staff to other districts in the region. The one thing I want to bring to your attention is that Brooklyn and Woodstock do not have a high school. So when you're making that comparison, make sure that you notice that Brooklyn and Woodstock do not have a high school. And then total staffing costs by department. Our health and dental, you can see that our health insurance this year went up 19.5%. Our dental insurance went down a little bit, so the overall increase in our health and dental is 17.11%. That's a big increase, and that's a fixed cost, and that's one of the drivers that made us have a budget at 6.02% increase. And then transportation in all departments. And I want to stop here just to mention, and I think I alluded to that when I was in the special ed department, that the contract that we have with DADCO for next year for general education, transportation, and special education is at 3% increase. And for field trips, it's at 3.33% increase. However, due to the fact that we have removed some of those special education vans off the road because the Bradley program is on site, that has been reduced to 2.47%. And I've got to thank everyone who's been involved in making that happen. And then just our cafeteria. This is a federal program. None of this money is part of the BOE budget. However, we are operating in the black, I am proud to say, and the program is actually doing so much better. They're making more scratch food. We're having more local procurement. We just recently have a contract with Woodstock Creamery for all of our yogurt, so we're trying to buy local, but yet that program is running in the black, and we're proud of that. And then all of our special education caseload. I think that's interesting when you look at that and how many students and some of the programming that we have in place at Mary Fisher, at the middle school, and at the high school. And then a lot about the Bradley program, in case you have questions. And then some of our major accomplishments that we're very proud of. And then the clubs that we offer at the high school. And then just the basic value of, I must have zipped by, no, I guess not. The basic value of Turtle Rock Memorial High School to the future of Thompson. And we put the information that we presented to you early in the fall about outsourcing students. And that is here. And what would it cost to outsource students to Woodstock, Putnam High School, and then the intangible cost to the community of closing the high school. And so when we look at that, it would cost more money to close the high school than it would be, it would cost more money to close the high school and send them out to either Putnam or Woodstock Academy. And then we have a glossary of terms, because there's a lot of information in our presentation, and so we have all of those definitions and information and websites. And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you. Anyone have any questions? Mr. McGarrett.
Madam Superintendent, on page 56, you give a statistic for disengaged youth. What is a disengaged youth?
Those are students who are not performing well in school because they're not motivated to learn. So we want to re-engage our students and have them engaged in their learning process. That's why those career pathways are so important, because that gives them valuable hands-on learning experiences.
They're failing their studies? Is that how you judge they're disengaged?
They're disengaged because their studies aren't grabbing them and interesting them. So something like the aquaponics program is teaching them math and engineering skills, yet it's an engaging type of instruction.
Thank you.
For the record, could you please state your name and address?
Not to be redundant, because the superintendent has already imparted that information, but my name is Francis McGarry. I reside on Chase Road in the town of Thompson.
225 Chase Road.
Beg your pardon?
It's for the record, instructing the secretary that's 225 Chase Road.
Okay? There's no other question? Oh, Mr. Crowe.
Actually,
For the record,
Larry Crowe,
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Larry Crowe, 183 Wager Road,
Thank you.
Thompson resident. Belinda, I'd like to thank you for your presentation, as well as Kathleen Herbert. You guys did a wonderful job, and Amy St. Hodge as well with the Board of Selectmen's budget presentations. This question actually isn't for the Board of Ed nor the Board of Selectmen. It's actually for the Chairman of the Board of Finance. So if I could direct that question to the Chairman, and then he could ask the Board of Finance, the Finance Director for information if he doesn't have it readily available. So I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Aaron, but this was a reevaluation year, and typically in the past, and I didn't see it, I might have missed it in the presentation, in Amy's presentation. I saw something there, but I wasn't positive, and it has to do with the mill rate, the reevaluation. What's the current mill rate? I'm not sure off the top of my head. I should have put that rate more into the board down the town board on the way here.
It's 27.75.
Excuse me?
27.75.
That's the current mill rate, not
Correct.
the effective reduction that's going to happen with the increases in property values.
Yep.
That's the mill rate I'm actually looking for, not the current one, but the effective one that you guys will be working on. Once you start your budget work next week or the week after, when you guys. You know that? Mr. Chairman, or the finance director?
So if I follow your question is, what's the mill rate that we'd be working from when we first sit down to start negotiating this next week?
Everything was zero, it's 27 point.
The number I'm looking at here in this publication is 26.5.
That's with the new.
That's with the revaluation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That's the one I was looking for. 26.1?
5.
26.5.
Any other questions for the first selectman or the superintendent? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, maybe I wasn't as clear. I was just informed that that's the new one. If with all the increases, is that the one with all the increases in it already that's being proposed to the Board of Finance? Or everything remains at 0? And then what you're working up to, which is 26.5.
The finance director can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is the 26.5 that we will begin working on next week assumes growth in the grand list as a result of revaluation. That's what it assumes, if I'm correct.
And it also includes the
Maybe
increases
I'm not
in the
being
budget.
clear on my question. Does that include all the increases that was just presented to all of us today?
Yes,
If there were no increases presented to us here today, that's the mill rate I was
I
looking for,
don't,
not the 26.5.
I can email that to you tomorrow, Larry. I don't have that calculation here tonight.
I'm sure I can figure that out too as well.
Yeah.
But I was just wondering what the effective mill rate increase actually is from the present to the 26.5 which you guys are working. That's the number I'd be looking for as a resident, as a Board of Finance member, as a Board of Selectmen member. Or, I mean, that's what I would be looking for.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
meaning the current mill rate is 27.75, and now that we've revalued, what would it be if no change were to happen from last year, this past year, to the coming year? Is that's if I
Correct.
understand?
Correct.
Thank you. I don't have that answer, but I'm sure that will be discussed. Any other questions for the first selectman or the superintendent of schools or the chairwoman of the Board of Education? Hearing none, the next item on our agenda is adjournment, so if a member of the Board of Finance wants to make a motion to adjourn, that's not on the agenda. If you have a question for the first selectman or the superintendent of schools or the chairman of the Board of Education, you are welcome to ask as a member of the community.
I just want to thank the audience, the people who actually came out tonight. That's fantastic that you came. It's a shame there aren't more of you here, but it is great that you did come. I really appreciate it.
Any other questions at this time? Go ahead, for the record, could you state your name and address?
Jessica Bolte, 1081 Riverside Drive. I just wanted to see if there was any further discussion on a tri-board meeting. I know that it was mentioned several times before finance meetings and brought up at Board of Ed meetings, if any of those have been scheduled yet. I'll take that as a no.
I'm not aware of any scheduling with said writing. Any other questions? Is there a motion to adjourn from a member of the Board of Finance? So Rob Orridge has the motion and Steve Herbert has the second. All in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? Abstained? For the record, that passes unanimously, 5-0.